So you likely know Matt Haig for his massive bestseller, The Midnight Library. And full disclosure, it is one of my favorite books. Well, he is back, this time taking readers out of the library and into the magic of Ibiza with The Life Impossible. There we meet Grace Winters. She's a retired math teacher who unexpectedly inherits a rundown house there. And even more unexpectedly, she decides to leave her routine life in England and move to Ibiza to check it out. Matt Haig is joining us in studio with more. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here, Anne-Marie. Thank you.
Okay, we have to talk about the setting of Ibiza. You know, we talk about people visiting there, partying there, having a good time, but this woman is moving there. You actually lived there.
I lived there when I was a young, wild, crazy person, not like the sensible, middle-aged man I am now. Okay. But yeah, I lived there. Me and my wife lived there in the 90s. Yes, so we had a bit of a wild time, but my wife had quite a sensible job over there. She was an office manager and was literally the most sane and sober person in Ibiza in the 1990s. So yeah, we've seen both sides of the island. I got very ill there when I was a young person, partly to do with the lifestyle and stuff. And so going back to Ibiza as an older person was quite a cathartic moment. That's sort of where the idea came from.
Your main character is a 72-year-old woman, which I love because you've placed her living in Ibiza. Tell us more about Grace Winters and what life is like for her.
Yeah, well, she's the opposite of the sort of person who'd go to a party island. She's this retired math teacher, a widow. She feels like life's behind her. She feels like she's got nothing to live for. She's got a lot of guilt and baggage from life. And then out of the blue, she's left this house by a person she did a random act of kindness for many, many years ago. And so it starts off as a mystery. She kind of goes over to see what happened to her friend, see if she died, how she died. And in the process, she discovers a lot about herself. She's sort of like, comes to terms and learns to sort of love life in a totally different way. And it's really her story, but it starts off as a mystery.
You say about this book, it is my least realistic and my most true. What does that mean?
In terms of the plot and the things that happen in it is the least realistic,
Sure.
But in terms of the emotions about recovery, grief, and starting again at any age when you think you can't, that's quite relatable to me because, you know, it's a parallel to overcoming depression and how surreal that can feel when you feel like it's impossible to live, and then suddenly you recover and you see the world in a sort of new way and you feel like you're the alien on this beautiful planet. The grass seems greener, the sky seems bluer. So it's about those feelings, and they're very real feelings, but it's in a fable where a lot of fantastical, strange things happen. You
know, I wondered when I was reading those descriptions about those feelings of depression, if you had actually experienced this yourself. You write about it so accurately from a place I could tell that wasn't from an interview, but that was personal. And you described something in there I think a lot of people who've been through depression have experienced, anhedonia, that feeling of just that lingering sadness. But you also have talked about having suicidal thoughts and ideations, and you've had a lot of support for speaking openly about that. What has that been like for you to put that very personal experience out there and to receive back what you have?
Yeah, well, for years I couldn't talk about it. I was like the typical young man who didn't, you know, I sort of masked my problems for as long as I could with alcohol and drugs and, you know, toxic ways. And when I started to write about it many years after, it felt like such a release and relief. It felt nice to help people, but more than that, it was also just a way for myself to feel less lonely within depression, because I can remember at my suicidal worst, it was that loneliness, that sort of feeling that no one understands what you're going through, which was so strong. And back then, there wasn't much I could read that was accessible to me. It was all very academic and highbrow. And so when I started writing about mental health, I wanted to do it in a way that spoke to people and that got through to people and made them feel less isolated.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, I read this great quote where your agent talks about this is no longer a book by Matt Haig, but a Matt Haig book. And, you know, you and I were just speaking about one of the bookstores here in Canada. They have a Matt Haig section now highlighted. What is that? He squeezes his hands and lifts his shoulders.
Well, yeah, when you walk into a shop and you see your face, it's a bit...
it's a good
especially
photo.
when you go with your teenage daughter who's eye-rolling at it, you know. So it's, yeah, I've brought the whole family on tour with me this time, so yeah. But it's lovely, and it's particularly lovely in Canada because, like, my Canadian publishers, HarperCollins here, they were behind me many, many years ago before no one had read my books, and Iris there, she's always been banging the drum. And so it's lovely that it's sort of like paid off, and I've got proper Canadian readers now, and just seeing that, yeah, it was lovely.
We are proper Canadian readers. I'm one of them. Matt Haig, thank you so much for being here. And I love that Canada is a big part of your story. A reminder, this is what it looks like. Oh, look, it matches my shirt. A reminder, the new book is called The Life Impossible.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.